Hey everybody, this is Townsend. Thank you so much for tuning in. The goal of this podcast is to cover a vast variety of topics regarding mental health, struggles, share people's stories, and hopefully remind you that you're not alone. I hope you enjoy. What is up, everybody? It is Townsend. I'm so excited about tonight's live. We're going to be talking with a good friend of mine, Laura. I met her not that long ago, and we chit-chatted about her story, and I thought it was so interesting. I wanted everybody to hear it. I wanted her to share it when she was comfortable doing so. So we're going to be talking about surviving a stroke, especially at a young age. All right. Are you nervous?
I am nervous, but I'll be fine. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not. The only reason I did this is like, get it out there and maybe help other people. So absolutely. It has been such a cool project. I know you've kind of kept up on my social media, and I told everybody earlier, I've gotten to know you recently. And so we've been talking about like my other, I guess I'll call them episodes, topics that we've talked about. And I thought yours fit perfectly and you were comfortable sharing your story. So I'm so excited about this because it's a topic that it's scary, and sadly enough, a lot of people that suffer from a stroke, they may not be able to talk about it, or they may be an older age, and it's just so rare to hear about somebody in their low 30s having a stroke. Yeah.
Being able to talk about it later, like that's just so cool to me.
Well, I mean, it's taken a lot to get here. I may tear up when I talk about my kids or whatever. That gets me, but I'm ready. I want. What happened to me was very rare. Mine was from an injury, but it does happen, and people need to hear about it, so. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited that you're able to share it. I'm excited that you're here to share it with us. I may get teary too, girl. Don't judge me. Okay, guys, I want to encourage everybody. We've got a lot of people logged in. Somebody said street kitties in the house. Yes. Yeah, so when you say, who is Laura, I'm a street kitty. I had to get that out there. I love it. Joke.
All right, people. So I love to do these live because that gives people an opportunity to comment, to ask questions, to kind of show their friends and family love and support. So I know, good Lord, you're first. I know.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. That's what I was going to say. I love when friends log in. So guys, keep showing their love, support. It kind of helps us through this. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. That's why I do them live. I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions one-on-one. We can chit chat about them, but enough is enough. Let's get started. Okay.
All
so
right.
Who the heck is Laura?
I am a middle-aged mom. Approaching that. I've got two awesome kids, Will and Allie. Will's 15, Allie's 13. Recently started working again. That's going to be a huge part of this. So that's about it.
What's your job look like now?
I'm a billing specialist at a mental health clinic, and I was told I never work full-time again. I went from part-time to full-time, so that was huge for me. Because I never thought I'd be able to do that again. So
wow. So was that
for me? It was huge. And my boss, I was so thankful she gave me the opportunity, and I'm with a great team. So it was meant to be. So
I was going to say, was that a celebratory moment or like a dang, I got to go back to work full time moment?
Well, I went back to work and I was like, what did I just do? But no, it's good for me. It's really great for me to get out of the house. I will get more into my story, I'm sure, but I sat home for 6 years, and I was like, who's going to hire me? With, some of the residual effects, I have fatigue and things like that. I was told I'd never be able to work more than part-time, and that it would probably be like just a desk job or something like that. And so I was like, who's going to have the flexibility to hire me? I've been fine. I took off one day when I had my second COVID vaccine, the booster, and had the effects from that. I've taken off that, I took off a few days to go to Branson, but been there every day. So, it's been fine, and they're very flexible, and it's just, I was really lucked out. I'm very blessed to be where I'm at. So.
Absolutely, man. I would imagine that is super scary for a doctor to tell you these things and then kind of step out of those orders of, well, I think I can do it. You set yourself up for, well, I'm never going to work again. That's what they say.
Right. Well, it was like I wanted to go back to work. I was 33, but it was you get in your head, and it's you when especially which I went through a trial, and so you hear all these doctors like talking about your abilities and these psych tests and all the people what they're saying, and it messes with your head. And my dad at one point was like, you can't listen to them. They're trying to make you sound they're trying to make it sound bad, or they're trying to make it sound whatever. But it really did kind of get in my head. And so, a lot of it was just therapy and pushing forward, and like, I'm never going to know unless I try. And I tried, and I'm running. So I've done really well.
I love it. That's one thing that I feel like medical professionals and healthcare professionals, they need to be careful what they tell their patients. And being in healthcare myself, I did speech therapy full time last year and for 9 years before that. But something that I see all the time is when people have a stroke or, a brain injury, anything of that sort, like major, they tell them, the best way to put it is like restrictions they will have. And I feel like we're getting better at it, but I feel like we really need to fix that into what you might have, because everybody's different, and technology and medicines are so much better now. Like, we can't have people thinking, oh, I'm going to be a couch potato for the rest of my life. Like, we need to give them the encouragement as well, but be realistic,
Hey there. Thank you so much for tuning in to You're Not Alone with Townsend. If you're enjoying these live streams and podcasts and want to see them continue, head over to patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. Your support means that the research and time and effort that goes into each one of these episodes can continue, and we can reach out to more guests and do more awesome things in 2022. All right, back to the conversation.
So there was that balance of, I've got to be better for my kids, or I've got to show my kids I can do more, that I can't, there's more to it. And I went through a period of depression where I got out of bed, but it was just like, there was just so much fatigue and so much just not knowing. The doctors still don't know. And I'm like the 1%, where I was 33 when I got these stents. I've got 3 inches of stents literally from here to underneath my eye. They go into my brain. Like, those are long. They don't know really. And so I'll have to have more procedures as I age. And, I had to push through that. And I think proving to my kids that, hey, I'm okay. And, you push on, you move on. So,
yeah, I can't imagine having 2, and they would have been pretty young at that time. So pretty young.
7 and 9. That was the last time I could pick them up and throw them over my shoulder, or, swing them around, or,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump in. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but tell us a little bit about your story. So what got you here? Like, obviously people know you had a stroke. You were the right young age at 33, which just like, that's so like hitting home for me. I'm not that far away. 33 is incredibly young. Like you said, you were the 1%, incredibly rare. You've got these 2 young kids at home. You're just an active, normal 30-something-year-old. So what the heck got you into this?
Well, I had some issues going on with my shoulder. I went to the chiropractor, and he was like, well, you sit at the desk all day. I worked full time for the state. I was in child support enforcement. And so he kept having me come. And now I know you shouldn't go that often. Like, you should, like, six visits or so, you should be good. And he kept having me come for maintenance. And so it was like every few weeks. And so I started having migraines after my last adjustment. It was on December 14th of 2015. And they would come and go. And so I'd had migraines before, but nothing like what I was experiencing. I started like seeing flashes of light, and I'd feel the urge to vomit, and that wasn't normal for me. I know, but so I looked it up, and people have that with their migraines. I even looked up symptoms of a stroke at one point. And but I had all the signs of a migraine. And so I started to make an appointment for a doctor, but they would go away. And it was Christmas time, and I had 2 kids in school with all the Christmas activities. And I was working. so I didn't go. And anyway, New Year's Eve, my husband was in Conway picking up my daughter from my in-laws' house. She had gone home with them after Christmas. And I was at home with Will by myself. And that night, my head was just killing me. And I remember taking ibuprofen, drinking Dr. Pepper, trying to get some caffeine in me. And we watched the ball drop at 11, and I put him to bed, making him think it was midnight, pulled out a switcheroo. And I was trying to get her room clean before she got back, because my little 7-year-old girl, her room was for frat boys. And so I just remember like working on that, and we went to bed early. I woke up the next day, and I was continued on her room. I was doing laundry, and I was walking to the washer and dryer was across the house, and I was carrying her sheets in there, and I walked through, and I just felt like my arm kind of go numb, and then my leg, like it just kind of went through me. And I was like, that's weird. I knew what a TIA was. I knew what a stroke was, but I was like, mate, your head just hurts really bad. You're fine. Put the stuff in the washer, switched stuff over, was walking back through the house, and it happened again. And so I immediately went to the bathroom and did the face thing, hands above your head, sticking my tongue out. Nothing was odd. My everything was normal. And so I was like, you're fine. You're just really, your head's just really hurting bad. And so to me, the timeline was happening very quickly, but looking back, I was actively having strokes. And so it was all day, but to me, it was, it was foggy. At one point, I heard like a whoosh in my ear, looked that up. Not a good thing if you hear that. It was like I could hear my heartbeat in my ear. I went to go to the bathroom, and I turned to Will and I said, hey buddy, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. But it kind of came out all jumbled, like something about Walmart and the color red. And I could hear myself, and I was like, that's not good. And so I called RJ, and I said, just really slowly, I was slurring, and I said, I think I'm having a stroke, but it came out a lot slower than that. And he immediately heard it in my voice. And he's like, hold on, let me call your dad. My dad lived about 30 minutes away. And RJ called me right back. At that point, I was calling RJ dad and saying and I knew what I wanted to say, but it wasn't coming out clearly. Everything was starting to come out jumbled. And RJ got on the phone and told Will to go. Our neighbor was a firefighter at the time, who was also an EMT. And he said, go get Mr. Andy and, tell him Mama's sick. And so I sat on the recliner, and he went to get my neighbor. Well, he wasn't home, and his wife came in, and she took a look at me, and she was trying to call 911. I was going, I'm fine. And in my head, that's how I was saying, I'm fine. I do not want to pay an ambulance bill. My dad's on his way. But I was slurred, and it was like she thought I was drugged, and I'd taken something my dad walked in. It took him about 20 minutes to get there, and he walked in and took one look at me. I didn't have a bra. He would not let me grab my purse. He did not let me grab a bra. He grabbed a jacket and threw me in the car, because he thought he could get me there faster than an ambulance could get to the house. And they got me to Mercy. By that time, my face was drooping. I'm starting to freak out, because they're like, will rush me in. They take one look at me, get the crash cart, they're freaking out. I was like, great. It was like, whoa. Then, so they start throwing IVs wherever they could throw IVs, because they didn't know if they were about to have, if I was going to crash. They didn't know what was going on. And at that point, I lost the ability to speak. And that was really scary, because I know what I want to say, and I can't say it. And my dad's trying to answer questions, but I wasn't with him the first part of the day. And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at the doctors, and I'm pleading with my eyes, because I know what's going on. And do they know that I know what's going on? That was kind of it was very scary. there's a certain amount of, there's a window that they can give you the clotbuster, the TPA or whatever. And I was within that window, and they were about to give it to me. And my dad was in the hall signing the papers. And at the time, I did not know what a dissection was. I did not know any of that, but I just, in my gut, I knew I did not want that, but I couldn't speak to tell them that. And I was just panicking. And all of a sudden my speech came back, and I was rapid fire telling them the events of the day, like went the full timeline. And so they didn't give it to me because apparently whatever was there stopping my speech had moved on. And so they were like, okay, well, maybe she's coming out of this. Now I know if they had given me that, it's very hard on your veins, that it would have, because I had a tear, it would have killed me right then because I had a 3-inch dissection. So that's just, call it what you will, providential. That's, crazy. But they started to release me because, a stroke doesn't show up on an MRI immediately. And so they thought I was having a complex migraine. I was 33. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Started having speech issues again. And so they decided to keep me overnight for observation. And that night I had the big stroke. I felt a line down my head, and I looked at RJ and I said, I'm pretty sure I'm for sure having a stroke. Didn't come out clear like that. He went and got the nurse, and she comes in and she's like, stick out your tongue for me, and looks, and she's like, yeah, you look like you're having a stroke, and walks out. And I'm like, I look at RJ and I said, am I going to die? Like, am I about to? And he's like, you're going to be fine. So that was January 1st. I met my deductible really fast. It was just, the next few days were kind of in and out. I would lose like the ability to speak. It would come back. They would ask me questions. How many kids do you have? 3. I have 2. Do you smoke? Yes. No, I did not smoke. And I could hear myself, but it was just, the brain is so weird. It was just like numbers were jumbled. I could not read the date. I could not, I was saying stuff and I just sounded like completely crazy. And I'd look at my family and I'm like, I'm in here, right? But it's like I wasn't, and I was kind of off, but, like really foggy. But when I saw my mom come in I was in Northwest Arkansas at the time. She lived in Central Arkansas. Saw my best friend walk in the door. It's like, oh, this is not good, That second day is when they did the ultrasound and they saw the dissection. And at that point, it was, we have to transport her to Little Rock or she will die. My dad tried to get the doctor to step out, and he was like, no, she's the patient. I have to say this in front of her. And so I'm like trying not to have a panic attack. And like I can't speak again at this point. I cannot move my right side. I'm completely paralyzed on my right side. And anyway, he says the blood's barely trickling to her brain on that side. If we don't get her there, she will die. And so I was there another day while they were trying to assemble a team at UMS that could handle me. So there was a doctor that did brain surgery. There was the interventional
radiologist.
Yes. Yeah, but it's another long word. Anyway, so neuroradiologist. My dog's trying to eat something beside me. So they got that team ready. They med-flighted me in. But before I say that, I have an amazing group of friends. Amazing. And they were about to put me on the helicopter, and I really started freaking out. And my best friend,
fly you there, your friends, they're gonna hijack the helicopter. Yeah. They're gonna be hanging out the side, being like, woo, 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 make it a party.
Well, they were down there waiting.
Oh, I know. I've met them.
I know. Yeah, that's how I met you. Yeah. So she looked at me, and she was like, made eye contact. Was like, breathe, kind of breathe me. Got me through it. Then they put a PICC line in my neck on this side. and to, you know, prepare me for a flight or whatever. Missed the whole helicopter ride. Like, if you get to fly in a helicopter, you want to be able to see that, right? I do not recommend it. It was the most claustrophobic feeling. It's tiny. You know, I had people like men sitting all over me, like grown, like large men sitting. Anyway, so we get there, and that group of friends is waiting there, watching them unload me. They're not supposed to be out there. Watching them unload me, trying to ask questions. Anyway, so UAMS, they have to wheel you through the waiting room. Why they have it like that, I do not know. But I kind of wake up. I slept for most of the flight. It was like 45 minutes, and I open my eyes and I see like my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, and I'm like, close my eyes in, because I was like, you know, the realization, you know. And then I see my kids, and I was like, why are my kids right here? Like, I don't want them to see me like this, because my family was booking it to get down here. They took off before. When they found out I was going to med flight, RJ took off with the kids, and my dad stayed behind while they were going to take me. Anyway, so, you know, that was, I didn't want, you know, I remember thinking, I don't want them to see me this way, you know. But that's basically, once I got there, I was out. And that was the January 3rd. I remember them kind of setting me up and stuff, but the 4th, is when they went in to see what they were looking at. And when I was taken there, we thought they were going to do a bypass. That was what they, you know, what we thought. So they removed part of your skull. They took a vein from your leg. From what I know, I'm not a medical professional, but he was able to put 3 back-to-back stents. He said if it was any longer, that he wouldn't have been able to do the stents. So like I said, they go from, you can kind of see them from here, and they kind of call it behind my ear and right up in here. But and I still, like, when I see the scans, I'm like, the doctor's nurse is like, recently was like, oh my gosh, those are long. I was like, will you shut up? Oh my gosh, like, those are long stents. I was like, thank you, that's not professional. Like, and then I'm like, because it's weird to see like these 3D images of your head and these stents keeping you alive. Anyway, so that's, you know, that's the main part. They were able to put the 3 stents in. I was in there a little longer. I had several strokes through the night. I ended up, those were ischemic strokes. Ended up having a hemorrhagic stroke after, you know, when they pushed the stents through, it kind of pushed them. So there was bleeding on my brain. It was touch and go that night. So, you know, my people would leave and come back to the hospital, and I opened my eyes and I was like, hey, and I, you know, not like that, but I recognized people, you know. I was like, my throat hurts so bad. I didn't know I had stents. It was like, it hurts right here. Like the worst sore throat I've ever had in my life. They're like, that's where your stents are. But it took, so I was in ICU for about a week. Got to see my kids on the 10th. So this happened January 1st. Got to see my kids on the 10th. Waited that long because I didn't want to see them, you know. I had tubes hooked to me. I wasn't able to eat or drink anything. I had tubes in my nose. I failed a swallow test at one point. That was horrible. Had to have that tube shoved back in. Had to be held down for that. Fighting. Anyway, then then they asked where I wanted to go to rehab, and said, where's the best? It was BRI in Little Rock. And so the decision was made for RJ to take the kids back to Northwest Arkansas. They already missed a week of school because we'd been out for Christmas break, and then they had a week of school. And then so they went back to try to get them in a routine. And my mom, I lived in Central Arkansas at the time, and she stayed with me. And then on the 19th, I believe, I was released. So it was 8 to 5 strict therapy. I mean, I wasn't allowed to get out of bed, walker, wheelchair. We're talking major therapy. They worked me. And then outpatient therapy once I got back to Northwest Arkansas. Should have had speech. I was told to have speech. Physical therapist that evaluated me didn't think I needed speech, but I did. The word finding and things like that, I really should have had more speech, but physical therapy. And then my speech came back after about a year and a half. I went through neurofeedback brain training. I had speech, but it was really slow.
Before we talk about the rehab part and like kind of what helped you, explain kind of what a dissection is. So you said you went to the chiropractor and you were talking about how there's a big dissection. For people that don't know what that means, kind of explain what that is.
Okay. So you hear people, you've heard of that happening. Usually when that happens, it's a vertebral artery. So I'm like the less than 0.1%. It was my left LCA. So left internal carotid artery.
Which, by the way, is a major artery.
Yeah, it's a major artery. The survival rate for that is very low. So basically your artery it's got 3 layers, and they're very thin, and the middle one is like almost like an onion skin. You know how thin that is. And so basically mine started as a small tear, and so I was having migraines, and that's why I didn't just die right then, and it grew over those 2 or 3 weeks, and just slowly grew until it started throwing bigger clots. And then so I had 2 things going on. So the dissection, that skin had torn and folded over. So it was blocking blood flow, and at the same time trying to repair itself. So throwing clots that way, trying to clot off. And so I had kind of 2 things going on. So that's what that is.
1, the body is an amazing thing. The fact that it tries to heal itself. 2, if you looked at a diagram, like a for real cerebral artery in your hand, it's tiny. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you have a little bitty slit in it. So basically, if I heard you correctly, you went to the chiropractor, for lack of better term, basically got a little tear in that cerebral artery, which is a major artery, and just with time, it just kind of got worse and worse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So that cerebral artery is teeny tiny. So the fact that your body can try to heal it, which is trying to, actually ended up causing more damage, which that's crazy to me. Did you know, you were talking about, you kind of researched it when you were having those migraines, which scares me because I know a lot of friends that have migraines.
Yeah.
Did you know much about strokes before you started looking them up with that?
No, I really didn't. I mean, I have a degree in health promotion and education, with a minor in exercise science, like your basic health degree. It wasn't like I always planned to go on. Life happens. My kids were preemies 3 months early and 2 months early, and I stayed home with them. It just didn't happen. But no, I didn't. I mean, I'd taken anatomy. I'd never heard of a dissection like that. You hear of aortic dissections. You hear that all the time. I'd never heard of anything like that with the ICA. But so it like tore where it branches. So my stents start down here, and they're about the size of a pin, but they get smaller as they go up.
That's crazy. Okay, so during that time, I remember. So let's go back to the hospital. So you're having the strokes. You go to the hospital. You're mid-flighted down to Little Rock, and you had told me a story that sticks out to me. And I don't even remember when you told me this, but it's been a while. But doing speech therapy and that being my degree in the background, it stuck out to me the most because you were saying you were laying in bed, your family's there watching, you're with it, but you can't communicate that, and so nobody knows really. You just got to be careful what to say in front of people because they might be with it and not be able to verbalize that, but that's a whole other topic. But you were talking about how thirsty you were. You're like, I need a drink of water, but you couldn't move your arm. You couldn't initiate that movement. You couldn't say you needed water. Everybody's standing around just staring at you, and your mind is like, I'm freaking thirsty.
Yeah. Well, I could move my left hand to a point. I had a lot of things hooked to me. Thank God. Well, let me say this too. I'm left-handed, and I think that has helped me more than anything because it was my right side that was paralyzed. So that was, just another providential thing, but, I remember I could just staring at my cup, and like, I just had a stroke. And this is the thing you need to understand about stroke patients. I just needed to pick up the cup. That's all I needed to do. But my mind couldn't make that connection. And so I just stared at my cup, dying of thirst, just staring at it and then my food one night, they thought I was asleep, and RJ and my grandmother walked out, and I'm laying there and they brought in my food and I'm laying there staring at it. I'm starving, staring at this food. I was so mad. I cussed them out. Like, my grandmother like picks up the fork and starts feeding because I couldn't feed myself. She like starts feeding me, but I'm like slurring. It's coming out very like stuttering, and I won't say what I said. I was so mad. And so they start, my grandmother comes in and it's cold, and that just made me even more mad, stick it in my mouth. But all I had to do was push the nurse call button. So there's that. You need to make sure, hey, there's a nurse call button here, or give them a board to write on. I would have held it up. I don't know how I would have held it up at that point.
But, your middle finger to flail around. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So one thing I want people to take away from this, and this is something that really hits home for me. Like I said, my biggest setting is geriatric, and this goes with anything. So dementia, stroke, seizures, anything like that, you have to be careful what you say in front of people, because they could be way more with it than you think they are. Just
absolutely.
Yeah. So nothing irks me more. We would have students and just get on them about this because they don't know better, but you just have to be taught. You come into a room, or really cocky doctors. We saw this, but again, like I said, it's getting better. But they would come in the room, they would talk to the family about, this patient doesn't have any chance of walking or talking anymore. You might as well put a peg tube in them, take them home, and appreciate the last few days, right? And we're sitting there thinking, no. So now you've told this patient, now this patient has in their mind that, well, I'm not going to get better. Why should I try?
Right. And when you're in that moment, you feel like you're not going to get better. Sure. I mean, I look at my keyboard and like the letters didn't make sense where they went. I wouldn't know it. It'd take me 2 hours to type out, one word. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing. All that comes back, but it was the most bizarre thing. And, anyway, my dad at one point, he was like, is she going to be goofy like this forever? Because I would laugh all the time. I would cry. Like my emotions are all over the place. And I'm inside going, God, it's like, it's just the weirdest thing. It really is bizarre. But
did the doctor to him and say, yes, she's female?
No, he was just like, just give it time. And, the thing, and the physical therapist I went to, outpatient, also said a lot was 1 year. It's like, you're going to be in this fog for 1 year, and then you'll kind of just one day you'll be out of it. And it was kind of like that. They told me not to go back to work for a whole year. I went back in 4 months. I did not listen. I did not need to be going back to work. I would like start to pass, like my face would turn white, and I would just like about pass out, and I'd like have to hold the wall to go down to the bathroom. And like one day, because again I'm in a fog, I like needed to go to the bathroom, so I started like unbuttoning my pants in my office. I'm like, what are you doing? You have to walk down a hallway, like, I got it together, but it's just like that's where you're just not clear at all. And and I'd catch myself, but this hand still every once in a while it'll just drop a cup or whatever. Like it's just like, hey, it's just
done.
Usually when I'm cold.
Okay, so during that moment, let's go back to like the hospital. Like I said, you've had the stroke, you're going through that, you're at the hospital, you're being med flighted. Wow.
You're doing what
I know. What was the scariest moment in there? So one like flash of a moment that you thought, this is the most terrifying thing ever.
I was scared I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Like I said, my kids were 7 and 9, and my family didn't know if when that plane landed or that helicopter landed, if I would be alive or not. And that was scary. And then you get past that point, and it's, will I ever speak right again? Will it ever feel right to walk again? Because it took me probably a couple months to where it felt normal. It just was almost robotic, and it hurt because this whole side had been paralyzed, and so you're trying to wake it up again. And that's basically the thing, is wake up at those nerves. And so everything was just off kind of, and you can just feel it. I can't, it's really hard to describe. So, it was those type of things. I'm 33. once I got past that, okay, I'm going to live, I still had that fear for years. Like, is this going to happen again? You know, up until recently, I had to go through some EDMR. I highly recommend that. But walking, talking, all that. I've got a funny story about my speech. You know, I went to a funeral about a year after this happened, and I was talking really slow, really calculated on getting my words out. And so you look at somebody who doesn't know you very well. It was back here in my hometown, and like they look at you and they cock your head and then they speak louder and slower to you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? How's your head? My head's freaking fine. Like, you know, but I'm just like, oh, good.
I'm not deaf.
I'm not deaf, and I'm in here, you know, because you could not, like, if I was sending you text messages, you could not tell. But if you saw me in person, you're like, she's kind of speaking a little slower. But no, I was in here. But I did that neurofeedback, and about maybe a year in, I was sitting there talking to my dad, and he just started laughing, and we were having a serious conversation. And he just started dying laughing. And I got so mad. I was like, why are you laughing at me? And he just can't quit laughing. And his wife, I was like, Jeanette, did I say something weird? And he was like, she's like, no, you didn't say anything weird. And I said, what is it? And he said, you're talking normal. I never thought I'd hear it again. So, you know, just that speed had come back. He's like, I never thought I'd hear your voice again. You know, you're from before, and it's back. I still have days where I'm tired, or when I get sick. I know 2 or 3 days before I get sick, my face just starts to droop in, and I'm like, oh dang it.
It's back.
Taking vitamin C.
Yeah. The crazy thought, you were talking about how you did EMDR and everything like that afterwards because you were afraid it would happen again. So crazy enough, I've done live streams, one being with the Clark & Co Realty, his wife, who was, I think she was 30 when she got her breast cancer diagnosis. But the crazy part about that was she said she went all through chemo, all through these treatments, and the most anxiety ridden she was when she was after all of that. And her mind just wouldn't stop playing. Is it going to happen again? Or when is it going to happen again? And so therapy and things, like, people just think, oh, you're healed, that's it. But there's so much more than that.
No, I felt like a ticking time bomb. I mean, it happened so quickly before. Why wouldn't it happen again? Like, for the first couple of years, and I still do it, I have to have yearly scans and see the doctor and whatever. And I ask him, like, the same questions over, can I fly on an airplane? I can't ride roller coasters. That's a big no-no. And that's actually one of the few ways that can cause a dissection is roller coasters, the G-forces. Yeah.
Well, I'm already sad because I don't ride. That's why. So to my friends watching that think I'm a prude because I don't ride roller coasters, it's because I don't want to. Okay.
There you go. It's very rare, but it does happen. Car wrecks. I mean, that's, you know, it's very, but I can't play contact sports. My friend Sin's always trying to get me to, you know, play, and I'm like, I can't. I'll play you in horse, and I'm going to kick your butt. I'm really proud of myself. And watch my language. Anyway, but I asked him questions, and so I was, I have a minor in exercise science. I was really working out. 2019, I was in the best shape of my life, and then COVID hit. You know, whatever. But I asked him, you know, what can I do and what should I not do? Because I was really into strength training at that time. And he was like, just don't strain. Like, don't do more weight than like you're comfortable doing. If you have to strain, don't do it. He said, I just had somebody in here this morning that blew their other side straining. And I was like, great, thanks for that. So then, you know, I didn't want to work out for a while. But
do you feel like you've had any residual effects? I know you talked about how your speech kind of slows down when you're tired, your face gets droopy right before you get sick, but are there any other effects that have just stuck around?
Yeah. Also, when I get tired, like, I'll have my word finding. I'll just look and be like, read my word, because I can say everything that I can say everything I'm not trying to say, but what I want to say will not come out. So there'll be like a whole sentence I'm trying to get out, and I'm like, just read my brain. It's right there. And it won't. It's the weirdest thing. I'm sure, being a speech therapist, you kind of know about that. But so that obviously was the part of my brain that was affected, was my language. And, you know, But there's that. I do have peripheral neuropathy in my toes, and I suspect it's in my hands too as well. I moved back to Central Arkansas about a year ago, and just the climate difference, it's not as cold down here, so I don't have it as much. It's better, but usually it's in the cold. When in North, I lived in Bentonville, and up there it would get down to like 10 degrees and below that, and my hands would just quit working. Like I would go do fine in the spring and summer, and just you forget, and then I'd like be trying to tie a Walmart sack or something, and just like my hands just drop and kind of do weird. It was weird. But my toes will burn. That's really, I had a lot of issues from the blood thinners. They kind of ate my stomach lining, and I kind of went rogue and quit them and switched to aspirin. Don't recommend that without talking to your doctor. But I switched to 325 before I did it. I had an audible gasp when I told them I did it. So there will be no gasping. I'm young.
I'll do what I want to do.
I need a stomach lining. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but he agreed with me. He's like, I think you're probably healed enough now, but you will have to stay on, a 325 milligram aspirin every day. That's really all I can think of right now. I have headaches. I feel the weather change, like weather fronts just kill me. My head, I'll feel that line. And again, it's gotten better over the years. When the pressure in my head, it would just feel like it was going to explode. And now it's not so bad. Today there was one coming through, and I just kind of felt tired, but I worked all day and did fine, and just kind of pushed through.
So you talked about, and you've talked to me about it as well at a different time, but you call it, was it neurotherapy?
Neurofeedback.
Neurofeedback. Okay. So you talked to me about this, and even as a speech therapist, I know what it is, but didn't know much about it. And it is the most bizarre thing. And I wish it was more affordable and the insurance helped cover it. Because after I read about it, after talking about you, it has like miracle results, but it's just insane. Expensive. So talk about that a little bit and what made you
so I did not win my trial, and that's something we really haven't gotten into. I did this whole trial. They could not prove without a reasonable doubt that because it was so long, it didn't happen on the table. And so there were jurors that were tearing up. I mean, I think they knew. Good things that came out of that were I was referred to this doctor or this clinical psychologist that did neurofeedback. And I was, the chiropractor now makes people sign something saying that it can cause a stroke, but he will say it can't cause a stroke, whatever. That was a win. So people have to sign. They might not know, people sign stuff without knowing what they're reading, but there's that. But the neurofeedback, I went in, and even the doctor was like, listen, I have a hard time explaining how this works to people without laughing myself, because it just sounds insane. But I was young, and when you're that young, your brain is like plastic. And so it can remold and rewire. And basically it was like rewiring my brain. So it feels funny telling about it, but they would take electrodes so I'd have my brain mapped, and they would work on different areas. So I'd have like 12 to 14 sessions on like one area, and then I'd be remapped, and they do another area, and they just kind of worked their way. And we were working on this side mainly because that's the side I had my stroke on. And then, you can stop at any time. And I felt I'd gotten to my baseline. And so I stopped, and I probably could go back and do some more, but I don't know. I'm pretty good. I mean, there's some things I'll never fix, the fatigue issues and things like that. But again, I do really well now. I mean, it gave me my life back. It gave me my speech back. I cannot imagine not having that, not tool, but just that resource to get my speech back, get my energy back, get my thought processing back. My words with friends score, listen, it went down to a 13 with the stroke, and my friend was like kicking my butt constantly, and then it went up to like a 27, 28, 29, and like she quit playing me. So I know that's the reason. I know you're watching. That's the reason. I know it's the reason. She won't admit it, but it's just, it's just amazing what it is. And they also do it for, my son had it. He's on the spectrum. He was a little slower, had some issues with math and things like that. And he doubled his math scores in like just like 6 weeks. I mean, it was crazy. Again, it was expensive. It's like the price of a car, but I'm very thankful. It was very worth it. It was completely worth it for having the rest. Definitely the reason. She just said definitely the reason. But it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
But they do it for depression, anxiety, migraines, people with that are bipolar, addiction. I didn't know this, but like, because I asked one day, I was like, well, how does it help with addiction? So apparently there's like a pill you can take, like if you're an alcoholic, and it like makes you sick. Well, they can do this brain training where you'll feel sick if you take a sip of alcohol. How they wire your brain to do that, I don't know. But, I'm a believer because here I am. So,
yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like, you talked about you were at that moment where you thought, this is it. I may die. I have 2 young children at home. I have a husband, my family, my friends are all out there waiting. And then here you are, functioning, doing well, working full-time, what the doctor said you would never do. Do you feel like maybe that changed your mindset, what you think about things or how you go about things? Do you feel like that's changed since the girl that was 32?
Definitely. I think a lot of that comes with just age.
Sure.
When you age, I'm, getting all up there. But
don't look at me. Don't look at me when you say that.
No, you're young. Listen, you're young. You have no clue. Just wait. Yeah. So life is short. Don't sweat the small stuff. Everything's small. Everything's the small stuff. I have to catch myself. I have to pace myself because I just want to go and miss, because I feel like I missed these 6 years of my life. And really going back to, I was in Northwest Arkansas for I had the stroke a year after I moved there. So you're talking the 6 years there, and I was isolated. I didn't know anybody. My dad was there. He would come over and like stare at me on his lunch break after, the stroke, because he just to see me. But, I didn't have friends. I didn't have that support. So I think being back around my family and friends has been better for me in the last year than anything. So having that support group, having those friends, I try not to, that they joke with me at work. I get joked with about my stroke. You're going to pull the stroke card again. Well, yeah, I am. They said they were going to throw me a birthday party. And they were going to have a huge banner that says stroking it to 40.
Yeah.
So, but they'll say stuff at work. My boss the other day, she's like, oh my gosh, she was so angry. She's like, I don't get offended. I feel like I'm going to have a stroke. And I was like, I'm not offended. I was like, I really don't get offended anymore because I understand that. Like, it's stuff's funny. You just laugh stuff off. Like, I really don't. I'm just so happy to be at work. Like, the other day I realized I was doing something that I didn't need to be doing, that I was told wrong at one point, and I'd been doing it since I started. And she was like, are you not mad right now? And I'm like, she's like, I would have quit. This is my boss. I would have quit. And I was like, no, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be able to work. It's going to be doing something.
Every day on my way to work, I try to remind myself you're lucky to have a job, be thankful, those kind of things. Okay, so what advice would you give loved ones of someone who have suffered from a stroke? So let's go from that point. So like people like your dad and your friends that were checking in on you, but you've suffered from this stroke. What advice would you give those loved ones?
In the moment, like we're in the hospital, don't have the freaking TV on. Don't do it. Don't watch a ball game in there, because that person may not be able to tell you that I couldn't watch TV. I thought my vision would never come back. I had halos. Everything was bright. Keep it dark. Don't have loud noises. I love my family. Like, that's not it. They just didn't know. So that, make sure they have the accessibility to drink, eat, give them a little whiteboard to write on. Just check in with them constantly. Don't bug them to death, but basically that's it. And then check on your friends, make sure they're still okay. Even if you think they're not in there, they're not able to do something, ask them, make them feel included. And that's the best thing. Lindsay, I know she's on here, and she would constantly call me, hey, come down, you know, why don't you come down and stay at my house for the weekend? Why don't you come down? And we just laugh the entire time, and you forget, you know, it would get me out of my head. So make sure that they have that support, that they're getting out of the house, that they don't keep them in because, oh, they're a little, no, they need to get out. They need to go outside. Let them, I'll tell you this real quick. I'm sorry. Rehab, you know, I was there for 2 weeks, and when I was there for a week, but it had been 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks since I'd been outside. And the psychiatrist there at the rehab, I'll never forget this, and I wish I could tell her. She was like, you haven't been outside. I was like, no. She put me in a wheelchair, and she wheeled me outside, and she wheeled me around outside. And we were free this January. I was freezing cold, and I was so happy to just be outside, you know. So take them outside, you know. I don't know what else to say. Just make sure you're checking in on them. They're in there.
Yeah,
they're in there.
Yeah, I love that. I think
don't treat them like they're not, you know. Don't look at, I'd get looks like, don't look at them like that. Just be like, hey, how's it going? Or, you know, hey, just talk to them like they're normal, you know, because they're just having a moment. But,
well, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Okay. So now where you are now, you know, you still get fatigued, but you're 100% better than you were. What does self-care look like for you these days?
I just pace myself. You know, I've tried for so long. I've constantly felt like I was having to prove myself that I could do this, I could do that. So I'd push myself till I'd just fall over and then not be able to get out of bed for 2 or 3 days. And now I listen to my body. You know, I can't just go. You know, I can more than I make myself sound like an invalid, but I just pace myself, and I just make sure I spend time outside, make sure I do stuff with people I love. I love live music. I listen to a lot of live music, like love it going out and doing, because for so long I couldn't. And so I'm trying to make the most, because time is short. I'm trying to make the most of that. So just making sure, I probably go too much, but making sure I take care of myself. Because for so long, even before the stroke, it was all about my kids, or all about, and it still is, but you know, I'm a person. And so I make time for myself. And if I'm not where I need to be, I can't be the parent I need to be, or the friend I need to be, or the sister, or the, you know, I have to take care of myself to in order to take care of others like they should be taken care of. So I mean, that's what it looks like. But focusing on others, not focusing on myself, that was a big part of, you know, getting out of my head to doing stuff for others. So I'm not worried about my ailments. You know, I'm fine, you know, just go and do for others. So we do a lot of volunteering with the kids and things like that, just to give back to others. That's another thing we do.
I love that. That's really cool. Did the kid, I know they were super young, did they ever bring it up to you? Like that time?
Yes. Yeah, they had some traumas themselves. They, you know, if I were sitting here talking to you right now, and Allie were sitting here, and she's not here right now, but if she were sitting here, she would just, you know, I'm just talking and I'm fine, and I'd look over and she's just bawling. And so, you know, we had to get her in some counseling for a while. Like, unless I drank out of a straw, I would choke on my water, which is, I was fine, but you know, and it would freak them out. They'd come running. Now I'll stutter or something, and they'll make little raps out of it, and people are like, that's so horrible. Mine, no, it's actually kind of funny. It's actually pretty funny. But they're good now. But there was a long period of time, if I get sick or something, they're pretty worried. I'm like, I get sick just like you get sick, like I'm fine, you know. So there's just constant reassurance for them, but they're good.
Yeah. All right, so one last question. How long did it take you to get, what was the timeline? I know you said you went to the hospital and the rehab. That was like 2 weeks between those two to get back to walking and talking and functioning like a normal human being. Like, let's say back to your baseline, what you were before. How long did that take you, do you feel like?
Well, I'll never be back to my baseline. I mean, I can't feel my toes some days, but it took probably a good year, maybe a little longer. And a lot of that was me being in my head and not pushing myself. I have to make sure I eat right. If I don't eat right, I feel like crap, but who doesn't? I mean, but my speech coming back was probably, with the brain training, a year and a half in. So that's probably where it came. So 2018, 2007, into 2018, probably, so 2 years really, is when I feel like I got back to where my best, where I'm going to be. And that's really with neurofeedback. If I didn't have neurofeedback, I wouldn't be working. I wouldn't be anywhere where I'm at right now. I really attribute a lot of that to the neurofeedback. I've been very blessed for that.
Yeah.
To be able to have.
All right. Thank you so much for doing it, Laura. A lot of people said thanks for sharing your story. Like I said, your friends were sharing hearts and love the whole time. I hope you got to see it, but thank you so much. It's been awesome. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I hope you have a good evening. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and are interested in becoming a sponsor, feel free to shoot me an email at townsendtmusic@hotmail.com. or shoot me a message on any social media platform at Townsendtmusic for more information. I would love for you to become a member to help spread awareness that you're not alone. If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area, and they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty.